need a little help. Before the move, our nearest neighbor was almost a quarter mile away. We now live in an apartment and play has become wildly awkward. To say I'm not quiet is an understatement, and I'm super self-conscious of the fact that we have neighbors on the other side of the bedroom wall. We've tried to play a few times and it's not ended well. I'm so worried that if I'm vocal, they'll hear me and that I can't let myself relax. My dom is frustrated that I'm not able to focus on us and I feel like I'm letting him down. I don't know how to relax when I'm worried about being heard. Any tips? Great question, Moon Pie. I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this right now, though, sweetie. I have a few suggestions that I think will help you, though, because let's just call a duck a duck. That's a transition. That is a big transition. From going to a quarter mile property to an apartment, that is a transition. So my heart goes out to you because that's a big shift. No wonder you're having so many issues with this. No wonder you're so in your head about this. Moon Pie, this is how you described your current relationship with them. Awkward, wildly awkward, self-conscious, can't relax, worry about being heard. My question for you, my dear, what will happen if you are? What will happen if you are heard? In your mind, where's your mind going? Because you have a fear here. Awkward, self-conscious, can't relax, worried, that's all fear-based. So fear, there's a fear going on. What are you afraid of? What are you worried will happen? Your neighbors might not like you. So Moon Pie, here's the thing. The fear is not actually the fear. What you're worried about is not what you're actually worried about. What you just told me is the root of everything. It's not actually about the noise. It's not actually about the neighbors. I feel bad that he gave up all his friends for you, right? This was your move, your job, right? Yeah. So you feel guilty. That's what I'm hearing. You feel guilty? Big time? Okay. So it all comes back to identity and value. If you valued yourself and you thought that your career was just as valid as your husband's, you would not be feeling guilty right now. There's some part of you that's thinking husband's career, husband's opportunities are more important or valid than mine. And I actually did something bad as a woman and as a wife by progressing in my career. And my supportive husband was actually not being supportive. He was just doing it just because he loves me. And then he's going to grow to resent me because I made him leave all his friends. And now I have to silence myself and kill the connection sexually because I want to be quiet enough so that our neighbors that we've never met will like us and then want to be friends with us so that I won't feel as guilty for making my husband move. That's really what this is, honey. It has nothing to do with kink. It has nothing to do with you being heard. It's like you're in my head. Because I am a little bit. I have special skills. But that's really what it is, honey. So we need to get to the bottom of that and address that. So why don't you start there? Because I have some practicals that are specific to the kink experience, but the root is different. The root is very different. And so I would encourage you, Moon Pie, to be vulnerable and tell your husband what you just shared with me. Cry, get emotional, whatever it is, but you need to be vulnerable. And you need to give him the opportunity to soothe you, to validate you, and to comfort you. But right now, this guilt is actually alienating you. And so I want you to step back into connection, okay? Because we got to protect this. And right now, the guilt is doing this, right? And it's just manifesting in your sex life. It's just manifesting in your dynamic. But that's really what this is it's the guilt. It's guilt and shame. Guilt and shame, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, severs connection. Be vulnerable. Sit down with your husband, be vulnerable, and say, I just realized that I've been feeling really guilty about this move. And tell him how you feel. I feel bad that I took you away from all your friends, and I'm afraid that you're going to resent me. I feel whatever it is, be honest. Be honest and vulnerable. Cry it out. Let him hold you. Let him comfort you. Let him validate you. You're trying to manage this on your own, and it's not your burden to manage on your own. This is data that your husband and your dominant need. Then I would say if you guys are going to play, keep trying to play, which I absolutely think you should. Try sensory things that'll get you fully present again. That's what I would tell your husband, your dominant, if he was working with me. Try some sensory things to get her out of her head and back into her body. And as far as you becoming just more comfortable with the other noises, the way, your noise carries, all of that. If you need a transition time, I think that's okay too. So it could be things like wearing a gag, kind of being muffled by a pillow, even putting on some good music or a rainstorm with some thunder and the heavy rain, and turn that on loud. Better your neighbors hear a rainstorm, right? But if you're just kind of in a quiet apartment, there's no music, there's no rainstorm, you're going to get more in your head about it. So I would say that look for opportunities or ways that maybe you could kind of muffle some sound as you become accustomed to this. I'm not saying stay there. I don't want you to stay in this state, but if you need a transition, it's a big transition going from a quarter mile to an apartment. So try that. A gag, being muffled by a pillow, turning on some sexy music with some good heavy beats to it, or a rainstorm, a thunderstorm. Music and a loud TV, yeah. Another idea, Moon Pie, you said that you were playing in the bedroom and that the neighbors are right on the other side of the wall. What if for a short period of time you didn't play in the bedroom, but you played more in the centralized location of the apartment, often the living space, where you feel like it's not just right on the other side of the wall? Would that be an option as well? I don't know how your apartment is laid out, but that might be an option depending on the layout, going to more of a centralized location. But my final piece of advice that I would say to your dominant Moon Pie would be to start training you around some vocal exercises. So what comes to mind right off the bat, just for analogy purposes, Moon Pie, have you seen the movie Secretary? Well, I don't know if you'll remember this from the movie Moon Pie since you've only seen it once, but there's this scene where he calls the submissive into his office because apparently she had been answering the phones in a way that he did not like. He did not prefer. She was too quiet, too timid, maybe mumbling a little bit. So the dominant here, the OG, Mr. Gray, did a little vocal exercise. Bring, bring, and made her role play answering the phone. And so she picked it up. Hi, you've reached the office of Mr. E. Edward Gray. He goes, no. You can get a much bigger voice out of that tiny throat of yours. The phone is ringing. And he tries it again. And then by the end of it, she's like, hello, you've reached the office of Mr. E. Edward Gray. And it's through this really sweet, nurturing training moment that the dominant led her through that she was able to literally find her voice and take up that space. So maybe that is an option for your dominant here, Moon Pie. Bring that up and just see if he comes up with any ideas for you. where he is telling you, he's training you how to take up that space, how to be loud in a way that doesn't trigger you or feel scary or insecure.